So for a while now, I've been holding off of making any kind of review videos on this channel simply because I don't really think gear is the most important aspect to becoming a better photographer. I don't think it's a very important part of the process, even though it is a part of the process. Obviously, you can't become better at photography if you don't have a camera to practice with. And so in that sense, it is a good thing to consider, but I just don't think it's as important as some people make it out to be, especially when starting out in photography. Because I know when I first began, I was obsessing over the camera to buy and what are the specs of the camera, which one should I choose, how many megapixels does the sensor have, and so forth. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about that, and then I kind of neglected the whole process of making a photograph itself, which is really the point of photography, part of the camera, right? Now, that being said, I've owned this camera, the X-pro2, for about 5 months now, and I thought I would make a video, make an exception here, and talk about this camera and why or whether or not I think it's worth buying in 2022, because this now it's over 6 years old, this camera. So it's got some age to it. Now, I primarily got this camera for street photography. I have the X-T4 also, but I realized that that camera, most of the functions that camera offers, I don't really need on the streets. So I started looking for an alternative camera, something that is a bit smaller than that camera and also performs well in the streets. And first I actually got the XE3, but after using that for about 3 months, I switched over to the X-pro2 because basically of 3 reasons. Weather resistance, just the overall feel of the camera. I didn't really like how the XE3 felt in my hands. And also just the overall design. I really like the fact that it's got an optical viewfinder, that I can actually look through it and see what's really there. And I just like this rangefinder look a lot, so that's why I got this camera. So this camera has an X-trans2 sensor, which I believe is about 26 megapixels. And to me, it produces some really incredible straight out of the camera images. Jpeg or RAW, you're gonna get really nice colors from this camera. And really, what I really like about it is that you can shoot at a higher ISO range and have the image look still very natural looking. I mean, get some grain, but if you don't mind the grain, you're gonna be really happy with the photo, because the grain, it has a very natural look to it. It doesn't look too noisy. It looks very natural, sort of gives the image some texture, which I really like. And I actually like to add a little bit of grain in post anyway, so to me, shooting at a higher ISO range on this camera is no problem. I actually really think it looks good. Like I already said, one of the selling points for me was the optical viewfinder that this camera has. I like the fact that I can see the real thing when I look into the viewfinder. And, you know, I can also switch. I can use this sort of lever that's attached to the front of the camera, and I can switch between having an optical viewfinder or having an electric viewfinder. And I think that's really cool. I think it's really nice that I can sort of change the way I use this tool and sort of get a different feel each time I go out. Now, if you do decide to shoot JPEG instead of RAW, which is nice when you're just kind of snapping pictures, maybe you're just on a holiday trip, you don't really care about editing the photos and getting the most out of each image. You just want to kind of snap some photos. JPEG is a great option in that case. And like I already said, the JPEG is really good on this camera and on Fujifilm cameras in general, because they really just know how to get those colors right. And they actually have a bunch of these film simulations which you can select from the camera, in camera. You don't have to do this in post. You can do it right in the camera, and you got a wide range of different sort of film simulations that you can choose from, which they're supposed to emulate different Fujifilm film. And what's really cool about the film simulations is actually there have been some people, like third-party businesses and other people who have got together and created these Fujifilm film recipes, which are again supposed to emulate different film stocks. And this is a really cool way to get interesting looking images out straight out of the camera, and basically make it so that you don't have to edit the photo as much in Lightroom on the computer after you've taken the photo. You can sort of snap the photo and then use that straight away, post it on Instagram immediately. Now, I tend to like the editing process, so I don't shoot that much JPEG. Most of the photos that I take are shot in RAW, but I do like to have that option to shoot JPEG when I want to. Now obviously the X-pro2 is no longer the newest version of the X-pro line. There's an X-pro3 out now, and you might be thinking, why not just get the X-pro3 in 2022 when it's out? Why would I get the older version? And there's a few reasons why I got the X-pro2 over the 3. First being the price difference. I mean, you're gonna get this camera for half the price that you'd pay for the X-pro3. This camera ranges for around $400 to $600 used, whereas the X-pro3 you're gonna have to pay about 1.2 grand, 1.5, somewhere in that range. So it's gonna cost over double, and you are not getting that much, in my opinion, for that huge price difference. Yes, you're getting the new sensor and you're getting some interesting features that came with the new X Pro, but that's about it. You're not going to be getting anything that's going to make you a better photographer. I don't think you're going to be getting better photos with that camera. Maybe technically better, but that's really not a big deal when it comes to creating good photographs, I've found. I think it's way more important to focus on the process. And this camera, in my opinion, is a really good way to learn photography. It's a really good tool for that. I have learned the most I've ever learned using this camera. And I'm not saying it's just because of this camera. Obviously, there's other reasons involved. I've been going out a lot more simply because I want to go out to shoot with this camera. This camera motivates me to go out. So there's all kinds of factors involved, and ultimately it comes down to what's the tool that's going to motivate you and inspire you to go out and shoot. If the X-pro2 seems like that kind of camera, I highly recommend you check it and possibly buy it if you need a camera. I'm not saying you should go buy it. I'm saying if you're in the need and you're in the lookout for a new camera that's going to help you and that you're going to like using, I can say that this is a great option for that, and it's also relatively inexpensive. Okay, that's the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and see you soon. Actually, if you haven't subscribed, I actually urge you to do that right now. I'm going to be sharing a lot more photography related content, and not just photography. We're going to be talking about visual storytelling as a whole. I'll be talking about various different photographers and filmmakers from from the past. And I'm also going to be talking a lot more about the creative process and how we can become better artists. Big topics, and they will be very valuable for you. So I highly recommend you stay tuned and click the like button if you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.